Hey there friends, Rebecca here, the Dragon Librarian from Farmington Community Library, and Gally and I are here today to talk to you about a book that we just recently read and absolutely loved, and it's perfect to read this time of year. So we're into the second week of October now. We're in full spooky season, right? October is one of my favorite months of the year. I love everything about it. I love the weather getting cooler. I love being able to wear hoodies and sweatshirts again. I love the leaves changing and pumpkin flavored everything. But I also really love reading Halloween themed books this time of year. And even if they're not Halloween themed, I like reading books about creatures or monsters or paranormal stuff, whatever, what have you. I love reading that stuff this time of year. So the one I want to talk about today is absolutely fantastic because it features one of my favorite monsters of all time, vampires. So this book that I want to talk to you about is called In Nightfall, and it's by Suzanne Young. In Nightfall. Now, it's got a really cool, almost like 80s vibe sort of cover to it. I really like that. It's what drew my attention first and foremost. So that's what drew my attention, and also the fact that it's about vampires, which I just absolutely love. I am absolutely one of those people that was obsessed with Twilight back in the day. Yes, you can judge me. Twilight is my secret love and secret vice. I don't even care. I love it. I know all the things you're going to say about Twilight that are bad. I know it, and I still love it. I don't care. So anyway, because of that, I've always been obsessed with vampire books. So whenever a new one comes out, I'm really excited always to read it. But I always keep my excitement kind of tempered, right? So I try not to get too excited about it because there are a lot of vampire books out there, and not all of them are great, right? So I always try to not get my hopes up and not think that, hope that this is going to be the best book I've ever read. But let me tell you, this book really blew me away. I wasn't expecting a whole lot. I was just expecting to enjoy myself and there to be vampires. But I loved it. I thought everything about this book was absolutely fantastic. And another thing I want to mention, Suzanne Young, I went into this book not putting two and two together about who this author was. And I thought this was her first book and that I hadn't read anything by her before. But she actually has written a sci-fi series that's just absolutely fantastic, a trilogy. And I didn't put two and two together until I was almost finished with this book. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this author. So that took me by surprise, which was really great. I think if I had gone into this book knowing, okay, I love this author, it's probably going to be great, it would have been, not as much fun because then I wouldn't have been taken by surprise by how great it was. So this book has a lot of vibes that are very similar to The Lost Boys. If you've seen that cult classic movie, if you haven't, it's a great film to watch this time of year. It's basically about a group of boys who are vampires that kind of have control over this small town. And that's basically what this book is about too. So it stars these two characters, Theo and Marco. And Theo and Marco are in trouble because they threw a big house party. They live in Arizona with their dad. Their parents have just recently gotten divorced and their dad is having a hard time with it. So because of this, their dad says, all right, that's it. I'm not dealing with this summer. We're all going to visit your grandma in Oregon. That's a very big difference between Arizona and Oregon, right? You've got lots of sun in Arizona. It's warm, it's a lot of celebrations and stuff. And then in Oregon, it's very green and trees and rain and stuff like that. So Theo is very upset about having to be dragged for the whole summer to stay with a grandmother that she's never even met before. They've never met this grandmother. And once they get to Nightfall, Oregon, they find out that it's a little bit of a strange town. Their grandmom in particular is super suspicious, always trying to put these weird dolls in their bags and putting this weird like herb and perfume and stuff all over everything. And she has this really important rule that you have to be back by nightfall. You cannot stay out past dark. And it just seems, everybody in town just seems a little bit weird and kind of on edge. But Theo and Marco decide to make the most of it. And, Theo says, we're going to try to make friends here. We're going to make the most of the summer. So they fall in with this group of girls, led by this girl named Minnow, who is super popular and she's super beautiful. And everybody seems to defer to her for some reason, even though she's a teenage girl. Well, it doesn't take very long for it to come out that actually this town has been in control of vampires and being run by vampires. So it's a really cool, like I said, if you've seen The Lost Boys, you'll see a lot of the similarities there. If you haven't seen that movie or even ever heard of it, it doesn't matter. This book is fantastic. It gives me such, and I don't even really know how to describe this, but it gives me such 90s vibes. I just loved it. And another thing I really liked about it was the dialogue between the young people was great. Sometimes you read a YA book as an adult and feel like, oh my God, this really feels cringy and it feels like it's an adult trying to write dialogue from young people. I didn't get that at all. I thought the dialogue was fun. It was realistic. It was great. I love the relationship between Theo and her brother. I thought that they were a great sibling pair. I liked that this book also dealt a lot with how their dad was dealing with depression because of the divorce, and how a lot of that played into some of the things that happened in the story. You know, and Theo as well, dealing with the divorce and her parents being, you know, not together anymore, and having to deal with feelings about what, you know, her mom and stuff. So it wasn't just a book about vampires. There was all this other family stuff in there as well, which was really great. But I think the last and final thing that I really, really liked about this book and appreciated is, usually with vampire books, you have an interesting dichotomy where they're either scary vampires or they're sexy vampires, and it's like one or the other. It's either like a romance about vampires where a human person falls in love with this vampire who's dark and brooding or whatever, and yeah, they're strong or whatever, but mostly the book is about the romance and stuff, romancing the creature or whatever. Or you have scary ones, like I said, and that's basically just them about being monsters. Well, this book really just does it both really, really well. The girls are beautiful and they're fun, and you like absolutely want to be dating them or being their best friend, or you want to be them, but they're also really, really scary, like super scary. And I love that this book did both with such ease that it was just a delight to read. I wouldn't hesitate to say that this book might be one of my favorites of the year, just because of how much I loved it. I loved the dialogue. The writing was fantastic. It was a great overall story. And I really liked that the vampires were, you know, attractive and fun and carefree. And like I said, you wanted to be them, but also they were terrifying. And that was really, really cool. The main character, another thing that I thought was really good, that I think a lot of books deal with vampire romances, right? When you talk about vampires, especially in young adult literature, a lot of it has to do with romance, right? And while there is a romance between a vampire and human in this book, it also deals with friendship in vampires. Like Theo, when she falls in with these girls, it talks a lot about friendship and girl friendships and how they empower each other, and how she just wants to be a part of this before she realizes, you know, that they're vampires, of course. So I thought that was really cool too, and not a thing that is touched upon a whole lot in vampire stories. So this book does it all. It does the sexy, it does the scary, it does the mystery of the town. It's really well written. I love this book, and it's perfect to read this time of year in Nightfall. Well, that's what we've got for you guys today. I hope that this book sounds super exciting and that you would love to read it. If so, please feel free to come check it out from Farmington Community Library. And also, please give this video a like. Thank you so much for watching, friends, and have a wonderful rest of the day.